Welcome back to this week's What's for Dinner video. I am back, and I'm back with pictures as requested from my wedding day, which was 2 weeks ago. I did take the week before and the week after off of filming and just cooking like this, but I'm back now and I'm ready to show you the 3 meals I made this last week. So the first meal I'm going to be showing you, I made some broccoli and beef with some white rice. I am just going to start off with 1 petite sirloin, so I am starting to use up stuff that we had in the freezer, so this is why I do have kind of smaller amounts of these types of meat. So I'm just going to cut this petite sirloin up into some small strips, and then I will start cooking it on the stove. So I'm just going to lightly season the steak with some salt and some garlic powder, and that's all I'm going to season it with until I make the sauce. So in a skillet that's on about medium-high heat, I just popped in some butter. I don't even know how much this is, like a tablespoon and a half. Just going to let this melt down, and then I'm going to add in my steak. So at the same time, I do have 1 cup of white rice cooking in a pot, and then I do have some broccoli cooking in the oven that I can throw in this afterwards. So once this is just about all the way cooked through, I'm going to add in my sauce, which I made. It's just a mixture of some soy sauce, hoisin sauce, honey, sriracha, and some Szechuan with a little bit of water. So once this starts cooking, it should start thickening up with the honey and the sugars in the sauce, and then once it is rapid boiling like this, I do add in a cornstarch slurry just to help finish thickening it up, and that way it'll be done. So next I'm going to add in my broccoli that I just had kind of cooking in the oven. I didn't add it before I put the sauce in because I don't want it getting too soggy. This is how everything looked when it was done. Okay, Baylor. This is how everything looked when it was done. Just a simple, nice meal, and I'd definitely make it again. This next meal is my favorite. You already know my homemade taquitos are my go-to. So I'm going to start off with my Mexican rice first because that does take the longest. At the same time, I am cooking a couple chicken breasts in my pressure cooker. That way I can shred when it's done. So I am just going to toast 1 cup of white rice, and now I'm going to add in my seasonings, which is a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic salt, and half a teaspoon of cumin. So I'm going to stir that around till it's nice and fragrant, and then I'm going to add in my tomato sauce. So I add in about half a can of an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. So next I'm going to add in my water. I add 2 cups of just plain water, and then I add 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon and 1 teaspoon of tomato bouillon. So I'm just going to mix that all around and bring it up to a boil or a rapid simmer, and then I'm going to put the lid on it and turn the heat down. So next I'm going to work on warming up the tortillas. I do this in so many different ways. Today I'm going to do it on the pan and just make them nice and warm, and then I put them in foil. So once the chicken was done, I just put it all in a bowl. I made 3 chicken breasts because we were having this for leftovers, and then I did save some of the juice from the Instant Pot. That way it will kind of keep the shredded chicken nice and juicy. So I'm just going to work on shredding up the chicken. I do this the old-fashioned way with just 2 forks. Then I'm going to start adding in to the chicken. So I'm going to first add in some cream cheese. I like to do this just so it kind of makes it super creamy. So next I'm going to add in my seasonings. I'm going to use some taco seasoning, some lime juice, some cumin, and some onion powder. So I'm just going to mix that all around, and then we will be ready to start assembling the taquitos. So this part is pretty simple and self-explanatory, so I do just fill them up till I think they are nice and filled. Then I just roll them and place them seam side down, that way they do stay closed. If your tortillas are not softened, they would crack throughout this process. So the last step is to just fry them up. So I did have some oil heating up while I was rolling them, and then I just placed them seam side down, that way they will fry closed and stay closed until they're nice and golden brown, and then I just flip them. So once they're done, you want to pick them up and drain the excess oil off both ends, and then place them on a drying rack or paper towel to cool and finish draining. So how everything looked when it was done. I just topped them with some sour cream, some cheese, and some lettuce, and then the rice was delicious as well. So the last dinner I'm going to be showing you, I just made a pork chop with some macaroni shells and some broccoli. I just used up the last pork chop that we had, and I just had some grilled chicken with the same stuff. So I'm just going to lightly season both sides of this pork chop with some salt and then some garlic powder. So I'm going to start off with the macaroni first because I do think that will take the longest. So to a pot of boiling water, I just added in some shells. This is just a box from my local grocery store of mac and cheese. So once these were done boiling and all cooked, I just added in everything according to the ingredients, but I did add in some cream cheese of my own and a little bit of shredded cheese of my own. So I just mixed that all around, mixed it together until it became nice and creamy, and it was actually pretty good with all this in it. I don't usually use pasta sides like this all the time because I usually focus on one main dish when I meal plan, but I do like to have these on hand for things like this. So once that was done, I just worked on the pork chop. So I added in some butter to the pan, and then once that was nice and hot, I just placed the pork chop down and cooked it until the other side was nice and brown. Once it was nice and brown on the one side, and then I flip it, I like to also add a lid on top, and I think this helps keep meat nice and juicy inside. And now for the garlic butter sauce. Once I remove the pork chop and let it rest, I'm going to add some more butter into the pan to make my garlic butter sauce. Basically pretty much self-explanatory, just let that melt, and then I cooked in some minced garlic. This isn't how it's meant to be. I'm not the one that's holding on. And then I just tossed the pork chop back into the sauce and let it kind of soak into both sides. And then I did spoon this sauce on top afterwards. This is how everything looked when it was done. It was super, super good. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.